Out something that a mom told me just the other day. She said, I want learning to be something that is part of our life, not separate. And I was like, yes, yes, that's totally it. I'm so excited that she said that because even her 6-year old said that she would. In school, she was like, Mom, we do all this busy work and it's just not feeling right. Why do we have to do all this busy work? I totally get it. Why do we have to do all this busy work? Oh my gosh. And it's separate. Learning is separate. And that's what we really have to understand about not only what we're doing in our homeschool, but what we're doing in from just our thinking about where that learning is coming from and where it's important and where it feels not important. That message that we're sending to our kids. So when you're thinking about how you're setting up your homeschool and how it feels, does it feel like you're kind of doing like a school thing, or does it feel like it's just what you do? Is learning is just what you do? That's what I want you to think about. And I'm going to share with you how that looks on both sides of the coin. See, when we're thinking about learning as something that we have as separate, then what we have is learning. Our kids are getting the message that learning happens over here where it's important. Important learning happens over here on this side. And on here, this side, maybe perhaps we're good at it, maybe we're not good at it, but maybe we feel it feels forced. It doesn't feel like it's coming from us. And your kids feel like, man, I don't know, it's not that interesting. It's something that is not I don't see the relevance of. And then on this side, you have this is the other side where there's interest learning. This is what comes from them. That comes from this is stuff I like to learn about butterflies, dinosaurs, skateboarding, whatever it is. This is the stuff I like to learn about. And this stuff is really fun. I'm good at it. This is something that's interesting. I see the relevance, but it's not important according to adults in society. Do you see the difference? So we have over on one side, we have the important learning, and on the other side, we have the life learning, which is not really as important and really not as relevant to our educational student success as it is normally taught in most school systems and in I'm going to say a lot of homeschools. We have to think about what happens on these two sides when it's separate. And I see this all the time. It feels this one side that's important learning feels like it's forced. We feel like it's not coming from us. And we also feel like as moms, we feel like we have to force it or the curriculum is leading the way, right? And there's pushing involved, which then leads us down the homeschool breakdown trap because then we have to push, our kids are feeling the pressure, then their love of learning gets lowered. And when love of learning gets lower, everything is harder. The more love of learning drops, the harder things become. So when we think about that in terms of our how it feels in our homeschool, we want to think about what is the message we want to send to our kids about learning. And the results that we're going to get from both of the paths I'm going to show you is vastly different. And I want you to think about as you're listening to this, what is the path? What is the end result that I want for my kids? What's the path that gets me to the place that I want for my kids? Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about in these two separate paths. The first path is really the path that says it's like school's over here. This have you ever said that? Let's do school. Let's do our school and then we're going to do our fun stuff. Then we can do stuff for the rest of the day. I know that's hard to think about and I'm sorry. I know that hurts a little bit, but it's totally normal. Just so you know, it's totally normal. And most people do it. I know I did it when I first started. It's totally normal because that's what we got from school is this is important learning. Let's do our school with the important learning. We got to get that done first. And then we do our other stuff. And that may be learning, but it's fun learning. It's stuff that, and the message is that it's learning that is not as important. Do you see that? In fact, I was talking to this mom and she said that that's exactly what she didn't want and what her tendency is to do, and what the tendency is based on what she knows from school, what she thinks about. And I've talked to so many moms, I can't even tell you, every single day that have that same problem. We do our school and then we have other fun learning. Where we do our other fun learning, that's great. We have our school and then we have our fun learning. You see how that's separate? What that does is it's parent led or it's curriculum led. Either you're putting like, we have to do this, we have to do our math. And I've said that as well. We have to do our math or we're going to fail at life. We have to do our math. And when I'm thinking in the back of my head, we have to make sure that we get all of these things in, or my kids are going to, I'm going to fail my kids and my kids aren't going to be set up for success. Is that hitting home for you a little bit? I know it's hard. It's hard. But this is what I hear all the time from parents, especially homeschool parents, that just, especially when they're getting started, or even they might have been doing this for a while and they're like, man, it's so frustrating because love of learning is low. You're going to get less retention when you do it that way. It's more box checking. It's that like, we have to do this box and we have to do this box and we have to do this box. I'm not saying that we need to cut out learning. Of course not. But when we do it this way, when we have that separation, love of learning is going to drop and we don't have a self-motivated child. We have a externally motivated child, which can be, and sometimes you don't see it. I remember talking to a parent one time and she said, oh, my kid's really advanced, twice exceptional, like totally advanced in math. And, he does a lot of math. In fact, he was 7 years old. He was doing three math classes, three separate math classes. And I'm not just talking about once a week. He was doing three separate math classes regularly. And I said, well, that's amazing. And I said, does he love it? And she said, well, he does it. I said, but does he love it? She was like, well, I don't really know. I said, yeah. Okay, so let's think about that. It's okay if they're doing it. And sometimes that happens when our kids are just used to doing that at school, when our kids are used to doing that at home. They're used to doing what we tell them to do, and they are good kids and they want to please. They're going to say, okay, mom says to do this, let's do that. Or more likely the case, what I see all the time is homeschool parents saying, okay, when we do this, then you can do fun stuff after we do that. Do you see the message that that's sending about the learning, the academic learning and the school type learning versus the learning that they want to do, which is whether it be skateboarding, whether it be video games, whether it be whatever the case, butterflies, dinosaurs, that's fun learning. So this is important learning on one side, the school stuff, and the other stuff is unimportant learning. That's the message that they're getting, that separation. And so when we have that, again, we have kids that have maybe external motivation, but more often than not, that external motivation, it wears off quick, because then I see a lot of parents that have frustration. I see a lot of parents that they're fighting with their kids. They spend all day. In fact, one of our Inspiring Life and Learning members that's been working with us for a while now, she's so amazing. And when I first met her, they were arguing till 8 o'clock at night doing their schoolwork. It would take her all day and it was exhausting. Have you ever been there? I know I've been there. I did that in our first few months of homeschooling. And then I recognized right away that was not the experience that I wanted for our homeschool. And so I had to look at things a little bit differently. And when we got this mom that was fighting for till 8 o'clock at night every day, we got to looking at learning differently and looking at that separation, we had to rebuild that motivation, rebuild that love of learning, and then we could start to design our days a little differently. So the internal motivation is low when we have that idea that separation happening. School's important learning and the message that the other learning is not as important. Does that make sense? I hope this is making sense to you. The other way to do it is to create a holistic learning environment where you're sending the message that we're bridging that gap and we're saying all learning is important, all learning can be fun, all learning can be relevant, and we can bridge it together. So there's not school learning and life learning, we're bridging the gap between the two. That is what rebuilding love of learning looks like. And that's what we do in the love of learning reset. That's what we do all the time when we're trying to unlearn all that box checking. We're trying to send a different message about learning to our kids. This is really, really important. So, that holistic learning is that life and school learning, academic learning, and life learning, they're all learning. It's all learning. It becomes just what you do in your homeschool. And it's really great because you become the mentor, not the pusher of learning. You become the mentor, and the motivation comes intrinsic. It becomes internal. It becomes self motivation. That's what we're looking for, right? The top thing I hear from all parents that I talk to, we want our kids to love learning. We want our kids to go out and just know that they can learn stuff. It's anytime they want to, they can learn it. That's what we want for our kids. So if we're separating it, we're not going to do that. If we're bridging the gap and saying, "Yeah, you can learn anything anytime, anywhere." Do you see how that's a big difference? Oh my gosh, this is so great. And the curiosity, the natural curiosity that we all have comes alive again when we bridge that gap. It really is about raising a lifelong learner, not just about raising a good student. I'm going to say that again because I really want you to hear that. We have to decide if we're going to raise a good student or if we're trying to raise someone who is a lifelong learner, someone who loves learning for life, someone who's independent, who owns their own learning, who is confident in their learning capabilities, and who knows for sure that when they need to learn something, they'll just learn it. My son said that one time to my husband. It was really funny. He says, well, if I need to learn that, I'll just learn it. There is a theme song of a lifelong learner. Somebody who's confident and independent, a critical thinker, somebody who knows that there's all kinds of stuff to learn in life and we're totally capable of doing so. Is that the result that you want? Because that only comes when you bridge that gap between important learning and fun learning, and it all becomes the same. Doing that, I get it. It's a totally different way of thinking. It feels hard. Doesn't it feel hard? Because you're like, "Man, I don't even know like how to get there." I totally get it. And that's what I hear from parents a lot. Like, "I want that." And most parents want that. They just don't know how to get there. So we have to think about, and the way to think about this is to change our thinking about learning and where learning happens, how it happens, all of that. Change just thinking about learning differently and then designing our days around that. You see what I'm saying? It seems so easy. I get it's not as easy as as it seems when you have that thinking of I have to check my boxes. We have to have curriculum led. We have to have all these things. But you don't necessarily. I'm not saying that you can't use curriculum. Not saying that at all. What I am saying is that we have to, with everything that we're doing, we have to be able to bridge that gap. We have to be able to bridge the gap between school learning and stuff that's they think is fun but is not important learning. When we do that, and I'm telling you, it's possible. I help parents do it all the time. And I've done it with my own family as well. It is possible. You can do it. You can create a homeschool day, a homeschool culture to where that message is sending all the time. And your kids are like, what? In fact, one of our newest home Inspiring Life and Learning Academy members, she just said today we had a huge win. We had this, they and had just something kind of curious question from one of the kids, and they looked it up and they researched it and they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Can you believe that? I didn't even know." And I didn't even know it was about chickens. It was very, very weird. Very weird thing that chickens can do. And then the mom said, this mom is great. I love her. She said, "That's homeschool." She was like, "What? No, no, no. Yeah, that's learning." What? It's so fun. It's so fun. It's so fun when you have that message sending all the time. And so we have to think about what our end goal is ultimately. We have to think about what that end goal is. Are you trying to raise a good student, or are you trying to raise a lifelong learner? Are you trying to raise someone who loves learning for life, who is curious, who is confident, who knows they can learn something anytime, anywhere, anytime, or with anything? And you want somebody who can be independent and capable. That's what the difference we're talking about here. That's the difference we're talking about. Does that make sense? Oh, it's so beautiful when that happens. Whoo, it's so much easier that way. Do you know how much easier it is to homeschool like that? There's not the pressure. And then you know that you know that you know that you're on the path to raising the adult that you're trying to raise. We're not trying to raise kids. We're trying to raise adults, capable, confident, independent adults who can do anything and succeed in anything they want to do because they know they can learn and they know that learning happens everywhere all the time. If you want to learn how to do this and you're like, man, I totally get it. You resonate with this and you're like, yes, I get it. I want that. I'm going to show you how in the next masterclass, and that's coming up on April 16th. So Inspiring Lifelong Learners Masterclass. It's a free masterclass. You can sign up in the show notes, wherever you're listening, watching to this right now. It will be in the comments, in the notes. You'll be able to go ahead and register for that April 16th at 12 p.m. Pacific. And I'm going to teach you how to do that. But I want you to think about beforehand what you're doing right now, what messages you're sending. Is learning separate? Is there are two separate types of learning, or is it all combined? It makes a big difference in the results that you're going to get. And you can do this. You can do this. I'm going to show you how in the masterclass. I got you. No worries. I will see you again next week, and go ahead and register for the masterclass, and I'll see you there too. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.